I never thought I'd be the guy who got cheated on. I mean, sure, every relationship has its ups and downs, and my wife, Jessica, and I had our share. But after 7 years of marriage, I believed we had built something solid. We had a nice house, decent jobs, and we were even talking about starting a family. Life was good, or so I thought. It all started with the little things. Jessica began coming home late more often. At first, I brushed it off as work-related stuff. I knew she was busy at her job as a marketing executive, and I didn't want to be that paranoid husband who questioned everything. But then the signs grew harder to ignore. She would spend hours texting on her phone, and when I asked her about it, she'd roll her eyes and snap back, "Stop being so needy, Mark." I started to notice her changing appearance too. Jessica had always been beautiful, long brown hair, bright green eyes, a figure that turned heads. But suddenly, she was obsessively talking about Botox and lip fillers. It was like she had become this new person overnight. I had no problem with her wanting to enhance her looks, but there was something off about the way she was fixated on it. One day, I came home early from work. I had a surprise planned for her, a nice dinner and maybe a little romance. As I walked through the front door, I heard muffled voices coming from our bedroom. I thought maybe she had a friend over, so I tiptoed to eavesdrop. What I heard made my blood run cold. It was her. "Just a little more, Dr. Collins," I heard her say. "I want to look perfect for you." My heart sank. Dr. Collins. That name rang a bell. I had heard her mention him before in passing, always with a hushed excitement. It was the plastic surgeon she had been seeing for her enhancements. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My wife was cheating on me, maybe not physically yet, but emotionally. Absolutely. I stood frozen, listening to her cooing at this guy like they were some lovey-dovey couple. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. All the late nights, the secretive phone calls, the sudden obsession with beauty, she was in deep. After a few minutes, I couldn't take it anymore. I burst into the room, and there she was, sitting on the edge of the bed, phone in hand, looking absolutely panicked. "Mark, what are you doing here?" she stammered, wide-eyed and guilty. "I could ask you the same thing, Jess," I replied, my voice cold. "Who the hell is Dr. Collins?" She tried to brush it off, her hands waving defensively. "Oh, it's not what you think. He's just my plastic surgeon. We were discussing my next procedure." I couldn't believe her audacity. "Your next procedure?" "Really? Because it sounds like you were planning something much more personal." Her face flushed with anger. "You don't understand. I need to look perfect. This is what people expect from me." I felt a swell of emotions, betrayal, anger, and sadness all tangled into one. This was a woman I had loved and trusted, and here she was, caught in a lie. The argument escalated quickly. Jessica threw excuses at me like they were confetti, trying to paint me as the villain for questioning her. But I knew the truth. It was all so clear now. She was wrapped up in a fantasy with a plastic surgeon who was probably feeding her all the bullshit she wanted to hear. In that moment, I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just sit back and let this go on. I had to plan my revenge, not just for the betrayal, but for every moment I had spent blindly trusting her. Little did she know, I was about to turn the tables, and this Dr. Collins was going to regret ever crossing into our lives. After the confrontation with Jessica, my mind raced with a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, absolutely. But more than that, I felt a sense of betrayal that I couldn't shake off. This wasn't just about her cheating. It was about the illusion of our life together, the shattered dreams of a future we were supposed to build. I wanted revenge. I wanted to expose her, yes, but more than that, I wanted to dismantle the facade of perfection she had created with this plastic surgeon. That night, I hardly slept. I tossed and turned, replaying the confrontation in my mind, feeling increasingly justified in my anger. The thought of Jessica wrapped around another man, especially a sleazy plastic surgeon, fueled my desire for revenge. I could envision him, arrogant, charming, promising her the world of beauty while she fell deeper into whatever fantasy he had spun for her. This had to stop. The next day, I took action. I started digging into Dr. Collins' practice. With the wonders of the internet, I quickly discovered that he had quite a reputation, not all of it good. Sure, he had a flashy website filled with testimonials from glowing patients, but when I started looking deeper, I stumbled upon something much darker. There were complaints, lots of them. Patients who had spoken out about botched surgeries, filled with regret and despair. I spent hours poring through forums and review sites, noting the names of people who had shared their horror stories. It was infuriating to think that Jessica was in the hands of someone who had ruined lives all in the name of beauty. I had a plan forming in my mind. Expose him, make sure everyone knew the truth about his practice. Maybe then Jessica would realize how foolish she had been to trust him. I gathered screenshots, documents, and everything I could find that pointed to Dr. Collins' failures. I even started reaching out to some of the victims of his work. I wanted first-hand accounts of their experiences, and to my surprise, several were willing to talk. They had been waiting for someone to stand up against him. As I collected more information, I felt a sense of empowerment wash over me. I was no longer the victim of Jessica's betrayal. I was taking back control. I reached out to a few local news outlets, pitching the story of this plastic surgeon who was ruining lives under the guise of beauty. I knew it would take some time to get traction, but the wheels were in motion. Meanwhile, Jessica was blissfully unaware of my plans. She continued to talk excitedly about her next procedure, her obsession with Dr. Collins intensifying. I could see her getting ready for whatever surgery she had in mind, Botox, lip fillers, the works. Every time I caught a glimpse of her, I felt a mix of disdain and pity. How could she be so blinded by vanity? One evening I came home to find her on the couch, flipping through magazines filled with pictures of perfect bodies. She looked so enthralled, so engrossed in the world of superficiality. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her and make her see how ridiculous she was being. But I kept my cool. I had to. I couldn't let her know what I was planning. Over the next few weeks, I poured more of my energy into my revenge plot. I contacted a few investigative journalists who shared my concern about Dr. Collins. They were intrigued by the prospect of exposing a plastic surgeon who was endangering lives for profit. Seemingly, I was onto something much bigger than I had anticipated. I remember one night, sitting in front of my laptop, a sense of grim satisfaction settling in as I drafted an email to a local news anchor who had a reputation for uncovering scandalous stories. I laid out everything: testimonials, evidence, and the growing concern of patients who felt they had been deceived. While I waited for responses, a part of me felt a bit guilty. I had loved Jessica once. How had we come to this point? But that guilt faded quickly whenever I thought about her infidelity. She made her choice, and now it was time for me to make mine. The night she came home and casually mentioned how excited she was for her upcoming appointment with Dr. Collins, I felt a surge of anger. This man had manipulated her, turned her into someone I barely recognized. But soon that would all change. As the pieces fell into place, I was no longer just a hurt husband. I was a man with a mission, one that would ultimately expose the truth about her lover and hopefully awaken my wife from her delusional obsession with beauty. The fire of revenge was burning bright, and I was ready to unleash it. As the days turned into weeks, my plan started to take shape. I was consumed with the idea of exposing Dr. Collins and the damage he was inflicting on unsuspecting patients, including my wife. After sending out several emails to different news outlets, I got a response from a local journalist named Sarah, who was intrigued by the story. We set up a meeting to discuss the details, and I felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety. This was my chance to make a real impact, and I was ready to take the plunge. When I met Sarah, she was sharp and focused, her notepad already filled with questions. We talked about everything: how Jessica had become fixated on her appearance, the complaints I had found, and the stories of women who felt betrayed by Dr. Collins. With every passing moment, I felt my confidence grow. This was no longer just a personal vendetta. It was about protecting others from falling victim to the same trap my wife had. Sarah assured me that she would look into the claims and potentially investigate further. I remember leaving that meeting feeling lighter. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was taking control of my life. I could see a future where Jessica would have to confront the reality of her choices, and I wouldn't just be a silent partner in her superficial fantasy. Back at home, Things between Jessica and me grew more strained. The tension was palpable, but it didn't seem to faze her. She continued to talk about her upcoming procedure with Dr. Collins, her eyes sparkling with excitement as if she were preparing for a vacation rather than a risky surgery. I wanted to shake her and scream, "Can't you see what you're doing?" Yet, I held my tongue. I had to bide my time until the moment. I, One evening, I decided to confront her about her obsession again, hoping to break through the haze she seemed to be in. I found her in the living room, a stack of beauty magazines surrounding her. "Jess, can we talk?" I said, trying to keep my voice calm. She glanced up, rolling her eyes. "Is this about Dr. Collins again? I told you I'm fine." "Fine? Is that what you call this?" I gestured to the magazines. "You're losing yourself in this world of beauty and surgery. It's not who you are." Her expression hardened. "What do you want from me, Mark? You don't understand what it feels like to want to look your best. I'm doing this for us." "For us?" I scoffed. "You're doing this for some fantasy. You're not thinking about the risks or the reality of who you're becoming. Maybe if you supported me instead of criticizing me, I wouldn't feel the need to change." She shot back. I wanted to scream. Instead, I took a deep breath, willing myself to remain composed. "I just want you to see that there's more to life than looks. Jess, you were beautiful before any of this. You didn't need to change." But she didn't seem to hear me. Her eyes glazed over as she returned to her magazines, muttering something about how different people's opinions didn't matter. After that conversation, I felt even more determined. I was ready to push forward with my plan. I began compiling all the evidence I had gathered and prepared it for Sarah, including images of the complaints and testimonials from disgruntled patients. Each story was more heartbreaking than the last. Women who had trusted Dr. Collins only to end up with botched surgeries and shattered self-esteem. A week later, Sarah called me to let me know she had decided to take on the story. She had done some preliminary research of her own and found even more disturbing information about Dr. Collins. He had a history of negligence that led to serious complications for several patients. The potential for a significant article was there, and Sarah was eager to get started. I felt a surge of adrenaline. This was it. My revenge was becoming a reality, and soon Jessica would have to face the consequences of her actions. She would see the man she trusted for her transformations exposed for who he really was, a fraud. In the following days, I noticed Jessica growing increasingly impatient as her surgery date approached. She was nervous but excited, a mixture of emotions that only fueled my resolve. I knew I had to time my next moves carefully. Once the article was published, I would confront her again. She needed to see the truth, and I was determined to make her face it. As the day of her appointment approached, I felt the weight of anticipation settle heavily on my shoulders. I was no longer just a hurt husband seeking revenge. I was a man on a mission. The thought of Jessica being forced to reconsider everything she believed about beauty and perfection filled me with a strange sense of satisfaction. But I also felt a flicker of sadness. I loved the woman she used to be, the one I had married, and it hurt to see her so lost. As I prepared for the fallout, I couldn't shake the lingering hope that maybe, just maybe, this could lead her back to herself. The day of Jessica's appointment loomed ahead like a storm cloud on the horizon. I could feel the tension building in our home. As I watched her prepare for the procedure, I couldn't help but feel a mix of anticipation and dread. She was so excited, and I was about to shatter that excitement with the truth. But I reminded myself that this was for her own good. She needed to see Dr. Collins for who he really was. That morning, she spent time getting ready, applying makeup and fussing over her outfit as if she were dressing for a red carpet event rather than a routine procedure. I watched her with a sense of sorrow. I missed the way she used to be, confident in her own skin, not reliant on enhancements to feel beautiful. "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Of course I do, Mark. You just don't understand," she snapped back, her irritation flaring. "I want to feel more confident, and Dr. Collins is the best in the business." "Is he really? Because I've heard some things." The moment those words left my mouth, her expression shifted from annoyance to defensiveness. "Like what?" "It's just gossip." She shot back. Is it because I've done some digging, Jess? I think you should reconsider this whole thing. Her eyes narrowed. You've been snooping on me. What is wrong with you? I'm trying to protect you. This isn't just about vanity, it's about your health. But she dismissed my concerns with a wave of her hand. You're just jealous I'm doing something for myself. You know what? I don't need your approval. I'm going to be beautiful, and that should be all that matters. And with that, she stormed out of the house, leaving me feeling frustrated and powerless. I couldn't believe she was so lost in her pursuit of beauty that she couldn't see the danger she was walking into. I paced around the house, my heart racing as I waited for news. I knew Sarah's article was slated to go live that afternoon, and I imagined the phone call I would get in just a few hours. It would change everything. I just needed Jessica to come home safe. A few hours later, I received a text from Sarah. The article had gone live and it was making waves. People were sharing it on social media, and the local news station picked it up for a segment. My heart raced as I read through the comments, many of which were from women who had been victims of Dr. Collins. They were sharing their own horror stories, adding to the growing momentum against him. I felt a sense of triumph mixed with dread. Would Jessica see it? Would she realize the danger she was about to face? I didn't have to wait long for an answer. An hour later, the front door swung open and there was Jessica, her face pale, her eyes wide with disbelief. She had clearly just come from her appointment, and I could see the fear creeping into her expression. "Did you see the article?" she asked, her voice trembling. I nodded, my throat dry. "I did. You need to read it, Jess. You need to see what you're getting involved with." She dropped her bag on the floor, frantically pulling out her phone. As she started scrolling through the article, her expression morphed from confusion to horror. "Oh my God, this can't be true," she whispered, her hands shaking as she read the testimonials of women who had suffered at Dr. Collins' hands. "It is true, Jess. You were so fixated on looking perfect that you didn't see the risks. This man is not who he pretended to be," I said, my voice softening as I watched her unravel. Her eyes filled with tears as the reality of her obsession hit her. I thought he was different. I thought he could help me. He's been hurting people, Jess. He's not a healer. He's a fraud. You deserve better than this." She sank onto the couch, her body trembling as she processed the information. "I can't believe I was so stupid. I let myself get caught up in all of it." "Jessica, you're not stupid. You just got caught up in something that's designed to trap people. But now you can make a choice." She looked up at me, her expression a mixture of fear and regret. I was so focused on being perfect that I lost sight of what really mattered. I didn't even consider the risks. I could see the realization dawning on her, the weight of her choices pressing down on her. "It's not too late, Jess. You can still walk away from him. You don't need this to be beautiful. You're already beautiful." She took a deep breath, wiping away her tears. "I don't want to go through with the surgery. I want to cancel my appointment. I need to put a stop to this now." Relief washed over me as I nodded. "That's the right choice. We can figure this out together." As she reached for her phone to call Dr. Collins' office, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this would serve as a turning point for her, a chance to reclaim her self-worth and realize that beauty wasn't dictated by a needle or a scalpel. But I also knew this was just the beginning. Jessica had a long road ahead of her, and while the immediate danger of Dr. Collins was behind us, the emotional journey of healing and rediscovering herself was just beginning. After Jessica canceled her appointment, the atmosphere in our home shifted dramatically. The weight of her decision hung in the air, palpable yet liberating. I could see the tension in her shoulders lessen as she began to process what had just happened. It was as if a fog had lifted, allowing her to breathe more freely. We spent the next few days in a state of reflection. Jessica started to confront the feelings of inadequacy that had driven her to seek validation through surgery. I watched as she pored over the articles, testimonials, and comments from women, some of whom had been deeply hurt by Dr. Collins' practices. Each story resonated with her, and I could see the realization settling in. She was not alone in this struggle. One evening, as we sat on the couch together, she turned to me, her voice trembling. "Mark, I've realized I haven't been myself for a long time. I got so wrapped up in wanting to look perfect that I forgot who I really am. I didn't even consider how dangerous it was." You were looking for something outside of yourself to fill a void, I replied gently. We all have moments like that. It's easy to get caught up in societal pressures. But you've got to know, you don't need to change anything about yourself to be loved. Her eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were different, tinged with a mix of remorse and clarity. I've hurt you, I've hurt us, she whispered. I let my insecurities cloud my judgment. I took her hands in mine. We can work through this together, but it's going to take time and effort. You need to find ways to build your confidence that don't involve surgery or anyone else's opinion of you. We decided to take a step back from the chaos and spend some time focusing on us. I suggested we embark on a little adventure together, something to remind us of the connection we once had. We planned a weekend getaway to a cabin in the woods, away from the distractions of daily life. As we drove out to the cabin, I felt a sense of hope building between us. Nature had a way of clearing the mind and allowing for honest conversations. When we finally settled in, the fresh air and scenery enveloped us like a warm embrace. We spent the evenings by the fire, talking about our dreams, our fears, and our relationship without the interference of the outside world. One night, as we lay under the stars, Jessica turned to me, her eyes glimmering with newfound determination. I want to work on myself, Mark, not just physically but emotionally and mentally. I want to discover who I truly am without all the noise. I smiled at her. That's a great place to start. You're already on the path to finding yourself. However, even amidst our newfound connection, I couldn't shake off the lingering anger I felt toward Dr. Collins. It was one thing for Jessica to regain her confidence, but it was another for that man to continue practicing without facing the consequences of his actions. I knew I had to take the final step in my revenge, one that would protect others from falling into the same trap. Once we returned home, I reached out to Sarah again. I informed her that I wanted to go public with my story, not just about Jessica, but about my experience and the dangers of cosmetic surgery when it was handled by someone like Dr. Collins. I wanted to make sure that every woman considering a procedure knew the risks involved, especially when it came to someone with a history of negligence. Sarah was enthusiastic about the angle. She agreed to help me craft a detailed exposé that would highlight the testimonies of those who had suffered at the hands of Dr. Collins, along with my own personal journey of realizing what truly mattered. As we worked together on the piece, I felt a sense of closure begin to wash over me. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about empowerment, empowering not only Jessica but also others who might be caught in the same web of deceit. The day the article went live, I felt a mix of nerves and exhilaration. I braced myself for the reaction. Would Dr. Collins retaliate? Would Jessica feel upset that I had shared our story? But the moment I saw the flood of supportive comments from readers thanking me for speaking out, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Jessica stood by my side, reading the comments with a sense of pride. You did the right thing, Mark. This could help so many women. I nodded, knowing that our journey was far from over. We were now in a position to advocate for others, to help them find their voice and prioritize their worth beyond physical appearance. As the waves of attention began to roll in, I watched Jessica transform before my eyes. She began to embrace her natural beauty, stepping away from the magazines and the superficial ideals she had once idolized. We were healing together, and while it wasn't always easy, I could see the light slowly returning to her eyes. It was a long process, but the experience had solidified our bond. The darkness of betrayal had led us to a place of understanding and growth. We were both learning what it meant to love ourselves and each other unconditionally. With every passing day, I was reminded that the most beautiful thing in the world was authenticity, the kind that no surgeon could ever replicate. In the weeks that followed the article's publication, life took on a new rhythm for Jessica and me. The local media buzzed with the story, and Dr. Collins found himself facing an onslaught of scrutiny. His practice began to suffer, with patients canceling appointments and former clients reaching out to share their own experiences. What surprised me most was how quickly the community rallied together, reinforcing the idea that we are all stronger when we stand up against injustice. Jessica became an unexpected advocate for body positivity. After our experience, she started engaging with local support groups for women who had faced similar struggles with self-esteem and body image. I watched her transition from a woman desperate for validation through surgery to someone who was actively helping others reclaim their self-worth. It was inspiring, and I felt proud of her determination to turn her experience into something meaningful. One evening, as we sat on the couch together, I asked her how she felt about everything that had happened. "It's been a journey, hasn't it?" she said, a soft smile crossing her face. "I used to think that beauty was everything. Now I realize it comes from within and it's tied to how we feel about ourselves." I nodded, remembering how lost she had once seemed. "You've really grown, Jess. I'm so proud of you." "Thank you, Mark. I couldn't have done it without your support. I was so caught up in my own insecurities that I didn't appreciate how much you loved me just as I am." As we continued to explore our new lives together, I found myself reflecting on my own journey as well. I had started as a hurt husband seeking revenge, but ended up forging a path of empowerment, not just for Jessica but for myself too. I learned that love is not just about accepting someone else's flaws, it's about confronting the things that threaten that love, even when it's uncomfortable. With each passing day, the shadows of betrayal began to fade. Jessica and I made a conscious effort to nurture our relationship, focusing on communication and vulnerability. We took up new hobbies together, hiking, cooking, and even volunteering at local shelters. These activities brought us closer and reminded us of what truly mattered: connection, empathy, and genuine love. Eventually, we decided to hold a community event to bring awareness to the issues surrounding cosmetic surgery and the pressures that lead many to seek it out. We invited local speakers, including some of the women who had come forward after the article, to share their stories. It was a powerful gathering, and I watched as Jessica took the stage, her voice steady and confident as she spoke about her own experience. "I used to think that beauty was skin deep," she said, her eyes glistening. "But I've learned it's about who we are inside and how we choose to love ourselves. It's time we stop letting societal pressures define our worth." The crowd erupted in applause, and in that moment, I felt a swell of pride for the woman standing before me. This was the Jessica I had always known, a strong, passionate woman who was brave enough to confront her demons and emerge victorious. As the event concluded, we received an overwhelming amount of support from the community. Many women approached Jessica, thanking her for sharing her story and inspiring them to embrace their true selves. We both understood that the journey to self-acceptance was ongoing, but every conversation, every shared experience, brought us one step closer to healing. Looking back, I realized that the initial pain of betrayal had transformed into something beautiful. It had forced us to confront not just the issues within our relationship, but also the societal norms that had influenced both of us in ways we hadn't fully grasped. In the end, I learned that love isn't just about weathering storms together. It's about growing and evolving into better versions of ourselves. The experience made our bond stronger and taught us invaluable lessons about trust, vulnerability, and the importance of being authentic. As we moved forward, I felt hopeful about our future together. We were not just two people united by love. We were two individuals committed to helping each other grow, to championing authenticity in a world that often prized appearances above all else. Together, we embraced the messiness of life, taking each day as it came, knowing that the most important thing was to love and support each other through it all. And in that love, we found the true meaning of beauty.